3 weeks ago, a Walmart in East Oakland shut down without warning. No announcement, no sale, just a handwritten sign taped to the glass that read, "Closed permanently." Inside, the shelves were already empty. Employees found out the same way as the customers. And this isn't an isolated incident. Major retailers like Walmart, Target, CVS, and Walgreens are pulling out of California at an alarming rate, faster than we've seen since the 2008 financial crisis. But why? What's happening that's forcing billion-dollar corporations to abandon one of the richest markets in the world? It's not just about bad business. It's about something much deeper, something that's hitting local communities hard. Retail giants can't survive California anymore, and the real reasons might shock you. Stick around, because in this video, we're going to reveal the 10 explosive factors causing this retail meltdown and what it means for your neighborhood. California's retail landscape is being overrun by organized theft, and it's no longer just about petty shoplifting. We're talking about coordinated criminal groups flooding stores and walking out with carts full of high-value items like electronics, cosmetics, and even baby formula, all with little to no consequence. In fact, some California stores now report inventory shrinkage rates exceeding 5% of total sales, which is catastrophic for any business operating on razor-thin margins. It's not just a handful of opportunistic thieves anymore. It's a well-oiled machine targeting retailers who are left defenseless. The heart of the problem lies in California's Proposition 47, passed in 2014, which reclassified theft of goods under $950 as a misdemeanor rather than a felony. This was intended to reduce prison overcrowding, but it inadvertently opened the floodgates for organized crime. Criminal groups recognized the opportunity and began to systematically target stores, knowing that even if caught, prosecution was unlikely and penalties minimal. This created a new equation: low risk, high reward. The result? Theft rates skyrocketed. But it's not just about what's being stolen, it's about the policy decisions that have made retailers vulnerable. Corporate liability concerns have led to policies where employees are told not to intervene during a theft, essentially giving criminals a free pass. The message from these companies is loud and clear: we won't resist, we won't fight back. With stores unable to stop the thefts and law enforcement either overwhelmed or unwilling to step in, retailers are watching their profits drain away, one stolen item at a time. The cost of these thefts is so severe that some companies simply cannot afford to operate in these conditions anymore. As the wave of theft continues to rise, retailers are left with no choice but to close their doors or raise prices, making essential goods more expensive and inaccessible for everyday shoppers. It's a crisis that's only getting worse. As if the theft crisis wasn't enough, retailers in California are also being hammered by skyrocketing insurance costs. The rise in theft and security incidents has pushed insurance premiums through the roof, and in some cases, they've tripled in just 2 years. But it's not just about higher prices. Insurance companies have begun denying coverage altogether for certain stores, deeming them too risky to insure. For a business that relies on comprehensive coverage to stay operational, from property and liability insurance to workers' compensation and theft protection, being uninsurable is a death sentence. The situation has reached a point where some retailers can't legally operate without insurance. Walmart, Target, and other giants face a harsh decision: continue operating without coverage and risk huge financial losses, or shut down entirely. This isn't some hypothetical situation, it's happening right now. Without insurance, the legal and financial implications are enormous. The costs involved with trying to operate illegally or with inadequate coverage are too great, so the only option becomes closure. The rise in insurance premiums is a direct result of the surge in thefts, vandalism, and other security breaches. Insurers have recalculated the risks involved with doing business in California's largest cities and found the risk too high. They've begun pulling coverage from stores, especially those in high-crime areas or struggling neighborhoods. As a result, retailers are forced to close locations that are no longer profitable or financially viable. This ongoing problem with insurance costs compounds the already unsustainable operating costs in California, from labor expenses to real estate rents. The impact isn't just felt by the big corporations, it trickles down to local communities who now face fewer options for affordable goods, and in some cases, no options at all. The chain reaction of skyrocketing insurance costs is one of the key driving forces behind California's retail meltdown. California's labor costs have become one of the most significant burdens on retail operations, making it increasingly difficult for large corporations to maintain profitable stores. With the state's minimum wage reaching $60 per hour statewide and certain cities imposing even higher rates, the cost of hiring and retaining workers has skyrocketed. Retail chains like Walmart and Target are not just paying higher wages. They are also facing additional financial obligations, such as health insurance mandates, paid sick leave, and other employee benefits that add up quickly. For a business that already operates on slim profit margins, these added expenses are a recipe for financial disaster. In addition to higher wages, the complexity of labor laws in California has added a significant administrative burden. Retailers must comply with a myriad of regulations, from overtime pay to break schedules and workplace safety standards, all of which require constant oversight. These labor-intensive requirements demand an army of human resources staff to manage compliance, adding another layer of operational cost. When you combine high wages with stringent regulations, it becomes clear why many retailers are struggling to make a profit in California. For large retail chains, the cost of labor is one of their highest expenses, and in California, these costs are dramatically outpacing other states. With the high cost of real estate, insurance premiums, and other overhead expenses already draining their resources, the increasing cost of labor is the tipping point. Small margins simply cannot absorb these escalating costs without causing stores to become unprofitable. The financial strain of high labor costs forces many companies to make difficult choices, including cutting jobs, reducing store hours, or even shutting down locations entirely. The reality is, as long as these unsustainable labor costs remain, the situation for California's retail industry will only get worse. Retailers are fleeing the state, unable to operate profitably, leaving communities with fewer choices and higher costs for essential goods. California's real estate and utility costs are among the highest in the nation, creating an unsustainable financial burden for retailers already struggling with other rising expenses. The cost of leasing big-box retail spaces in California's largest cities, like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Oakland, runs into the millions of dollars annually. These astronomical rents aren't just for prime locations. Even suburban retail spaces are facing sharp increases in their lease prices. The pressure of these fixed costs forces retailers to operate in a state where the return on investment is shrinking fast. Property taxes are another significant financial strain. California's property tax rates are high, especially in commercial real estate, where even a small increase in tax rates can lead to a substantial increase in operational costs. These taxes, combined with maintenance expenses and other property-related overheads, make it difficult for retailers to break even. As the state's commercial real estate market becomes increasingly expensive, retailers face a hard choice: stay in California and continue to lose money, or cut their losses and leave. On top of these crushing real estate costs, retailers also face skyrocketing utility bills. California's energy costs are among the highest in the country, and the state's mandates on energy efficiency and sustainable practices only add to the financial burden. Retailers are required to comply with strict environmental regulations that demand expensive equipment, waste management protocols, and ongoing energy efficiency updates. These costs are passed on to businesses, further eating away at profit margins that are already razor thin. Combined, these sky-high real estate and utility costs create a financial environment where retailers simply cannot operate profitably. As a result, even the largest retail chains are closing stores, pulling out of high-cost markets, and scaling down their operations, all of which lead to fewer choices for consumers and less economic activity in affected neighborhoods. California's regulatory environment has become a massive hurdle for retailers, adding substantial costs and administrative burdens that are pushing companies to the brink. While many of these regulations were designed with good intentions to protect workers, the environment, and consumers, the cumulative effect has been a crushing weight on businesses, particularly in industries like retail that already operate on tight profit margins. From environmental regulations that mandate specific waste disposal procedures, energy efficiency standards, and the use of eco-friendly materials, to labor laws that require detailed record-keeping, break schedules, and compliance monitoring, the sheer complexity of these requirements creates an overwhelming level of administrative overhead. Each regulation adds a layer of cost, and for many retailers, especially those operating in urban areas, complying with these laws means hiring more staff just to manage the paperwork and ensure that the company stays in good standing with local and state authorities. These added labor costs and operational expenses quickly add up. The environmental mandates alone can be incredibly expensive. Retailers are required to install costly, energy-efficient equipment, manage waste according to stringent guidelines, and pay for regular audits to verify compliance. Small businesses in particular struggle to absorb these costs, but large retailers are also feeling the impact. Even the simplest renovations or upgrades needed to meet compliance standards can involve thousands of dollars in out-of-pocket expenses. Moreover, the increasingly complex web of local, state, and federal regulations makes it harder for companies to plan and manage their operations. As new laws and rules are constantly being introduced, businesses are forced to play catch-up just to avoid legal penalties. In combination with rising labor, insurance, and real estate costs, this regulatory overload creates an environment where many retailers simply can't keep up. With no clear end in sight, retailers are facing a choice: scale back, shrink, or exit altogether. And unfortunately, it's often smaller communities that feel the full impact of this regulatory strain. The retail crisis in California is not just about rising costs or crime, it's also a result of shifting customer demographics that have fundamentally altered the retail landscape. Over the past few years, a massive middle-class exodus has been taking place across the state, especially in major urban areas like San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Oakland. As higher-income residents flee to more affordable suburban areas or out-of-state locations, the remaining customer base is increasingly comprised of lower-income individuals who simply can't afford the goods and services that large-format retailers traditionally offer. This demographic shift has led to a dramatic change in spending patterns. Retailers who once catered to a wide variety of consumers, from those seeking luxury goods to middle-class families shopping for essentials, now find themselves serving communities with less disposable income. As a result, the products these stores offer no longer match the demand in the area. Premium-priced items that were once popular are now harder to sell, while the basic goods that remain in demand often don't generate enough revenue to justify the high operational costs in California's expensive market. For large retailers like Walmart and Target, this shift has a significant impact on profitability. Their business models are built around serving broad customer bases, and when those customers are gone, the sales volume that once supported their large stores simply evaporates. As the market becomes increasingly polarized, stores are forced to rethink their strategies and cut back on product selection, which ultimately reduces foot traffic and harms overall sales. In some cases, retailers have tried to adapt by focusing more on budget-conscious items, but the high operating costs of doing business in California make it nearly impossible to turn a profit in areas where the customer base can no longer afford to shop. The reality is clear. As the customer base shrinks and spending power diminishes, large retail stores are left with fewer options and must make tough decisions about whether to stay or leave. As major retailers close their doors in California, one of the most devastating consequences is the rapid expansion of food deserts. Areas where access to affordable and nutritious food becomes increasingly limited. For many California neighborhoods, large retailers like Walmart and Target were the primary source of affordable groceries, household goods, and medications. With these stores shutting down, residents are now faced with a troubling reality: traveling farther for basic necessities or paying exorbitant prices at small, independent stores that lack the purchasing power to offer affordable options. The closures have left entire neighborhoods disconnected from essential services, making it harder for low-income families, seniors, and individuals without reliable transportation to access healthy food. In many cases, residents now have to drive miles out of their way to find a grocery store, which is not just an inconvenience, it's a barrier to basic survival. Public transportation options are limited, especially in lower-income areas, meaning many are left with no choice but to rely on small corner stores or overpriced convenience stores. The situation is exacerbated by higher prices at these remaining independent stores. Without the ability to buy in bulk or leverage economies of scale, these smaller retailers often charge marked-up prices on everyday items. This means that the poorest families are not only losing their local grocery store options, but are also being forced to spend more of their already limited income on basic goods. It's a double blow that deepens financial hardship. Experts predict that the expansion of food deserts will continue as more large-format retailers close their locations. Grocery chains like Whole Foods and CVS have already abandoned key areas, and without intervention, these neighborhoods will become more isolated, leaving residents without access to affordable, healthy food. As the retail apocalypse continues, entire communities face the grim reality of being cut off from essentials, further entrenching inequality and hardship. In California, the closure of retail stores is happening with shocking speed and minimal warning. The typical approach, announcing a closure weeks or even months in advance with a liquidation sale to help customers stock up, is no longer the norm. Instead, retailers like Walmart, Target, and Walgreens are quietly locking their doors without so much as a public announcement. In some cases, employees show up for their shifts only to find the doors locked and the store shuttered for good. Customers who rely on these stores for basic needs are often left in the dark until it's too late to find alternatives. The silence surrounding these closures is part of a larger pattern in which retailers are trying to avoid public backlash and minimize the impact on their brand reputation. However, the lack of transparency is causing major confusion and frustration for communities. Residents who have relied on these stores for groceries, medications, and household goods suddenly find themselves with fewer options and less time to prepare. When stores close without warning, they leave a void that often takes months, if not years, to fill. For many, this is a crisis in real time that escalates quickly as more stores across cities like Los Angeles, Oakland, and San Francisco shut down at a staggering pace. This silent closure strategy is not just limited to large retail chains. Even small independent businesses are being forced to shut their doors due to the combined impact of rising costs, crime, and changing customer demographics. In many cases, the closures aren't officially acknowledged until after the fact, when communities are already grappling with the fallout. For residents in affected areas, it's an uncertain and unsettling situation where every trip to the store feels like a gamble. Will your local store still be open tomorrow? Will the shelves be stocked? The uncertainty only compounds the hardships faced by families already struggling to make ends meet. Behind the closed doors of corporate boardrooms, the decision to close stores is being driven by hard, cold numbers. Retail giants like Walmart, Target, and CVS are not abandoning California out of mere inconvenience. They are being forced to confront the harsh financial reality that continuing operations in the state has become untenable. These companies are not taking these decisions lightly, but after months or even years of seeing losses accumulate, they have no choice but to face the reality that their California operations are no longer profitable. Corporate finance teams have crunched the numbers, and the results are clear. The cost of doing business in California has outpaced the potential for profit. Declining sales due to reduced customer spending and the shift to lower-income demographics, combined with rising operational costs, such as insurance, labor, and real estate, have created a financial perfect storm. The math simply doesn't add up anymore. When you add in the losses from organized retail theft, which some stores report at more than 5% of total sales, the margins shrink further. Executives and boards of directors are presented with two stark choices: continue operating in the red and risk the long-term viability of the company, or cut their losses and shut down unprofitable locations. Faced with these financial realities, closing stores is the only logical move. The decision to pull out of California is not about being anti-community. It's about survival. No company can continue to operate in an environment where the costs of doing business are so high that even the largest corporations cannot maintain a profit. For employees, the corporate financial reality means mass layoffs and the abandonment of once thriving communities. For consumers, it means fewer options and higher prices. In the end, it's the communities that pay the price, as the consequences of these financial decisions ripple throughout the local economy. As more corporations face the same stark financial choices, the future of retail in California looks uncertain at best. The collapse of major retail chains in California is not just a problem for the companies involved. It's a devastating blow to local economies that will have far-reaching consequences. When large retailers like Walmart, Target, and CVS close their doors, they don't just disappear. The ripple effect spreads quickly, affecting not only the immediate neighborhood but the entire community. These closures lead to a domino effect that touches jobs, property values, local taxes, and small businesses. First and foremost, the loss of retail jobs is one of the most immediate impacts. Thousands of workers are being laid off, and many of them are left with little recourse. Retail jobs have historically been a reliable source of income for entry-level workers, students, and low-income families. When these jobs vanish, the unemployment rate spikes, and the local economy suffers a major setback. Moreover, many of these workers will struggle to find new employment in a shrinking retail environment. Job retraining programs are often inadequate, leaving many stuck in a vicious cycle of poverty. As retail giants leave, the commercial real estate market takes a massive hit. Large shopping centers and strip malls, once anchored by these big-box stores, become empty shells, with vacant storefronts that no one wants to lease. Property values decline sharply, and landlords who relied on the steady income from retail tenants face mounting financial stress. In some cases, entire shopping districts become desolate, with no businesses willing to fill the void. This leads to further economic deterioration as surrounding businesses close due to decreased foot traffic. On the municipal level, local tax revenues take a direct hit. With stores closing, cities lose significant portions of their income from sales tax, which funds essential public services like schools, roads, and police departments. As budget shortfalls grow, cities are forced to cut back on services, further diminishing the quality of life for residents. The result is a vicious cycle of economic decline that's hard to reverse. The domino effect of retail closures is not just an inconvenience. It's a structural breakdown that leaves communities struggling to recover, with long-lasting impacts that will be felt for years to come. The retail meltdown in California is more than just the loss of stores. It's the collapse of a crucial part of the community infrastructure. If you're living in California, the signs are clear: fewer stores, higher prices, and growing economic strain. It's time to take action before the problem becomes irreversible. Track your local stores, support businesses staying in your community, and stay informed about the policy changes that could shape your future. Don't wait for this crisis to hit you. Prepare now. If you found this video valuable, subscribe, leave a comment, and share with those who need to know.